Good evening, Reach Out and Read of Greater New York family. It's Carrie here. I'm back with your workshop tonight. We are thrilled to be able to produce this workshop and bring it to you with our incredible partners at Literacy Inc. And to introduce a little bit about Literacy Inc., I have Emily Gertz here, who's going to tell you a little bit about the organization. Take it away, Emily.
Just want to let you all know a little bit about Literacy Inc. For those of you who are new to our organization, we work at the intersection of education and community development to engage families and community members to support young readers. Link surrounds families with programs that increase both children's and parents' access to literacy building opportunities, raise expectations, and create lifelong readers. Link is so glad to be here with you all tonight to co-host this event and recognize our work together as part of the New York City Council's Early Literacy Initiative, City's First Readers, as well as the work we do together on two neighborhood initiatives, South Jamaica Reads and East New York Reads.
Thank you, Emily. And now we are ready to bring on our panelists from Brooklyn Public Library and Common Sense. Welcome back to our second in our Balancing Screen Time series with Brooklyn Public Library and Common Sense. We have Kymberly and Tali back again with us, and they are going to take us through some more tips and tricks on how to balance screen time with our young children. Now, if you guys missed our first workshop, it's on our Facebook page, it's on our YouTube page, and we'll also have the link right there for you so that you can go back and take a look at part 1 of our screen time. Today, we're going to get into a lot more tips and tricks, so we're very, very excited for that. And again, we have this in Spanish as well. We have a whole separate video that covers the same content in Spanish. So check that out on our Facebook page. It is live right now as well. And welcome back to Kymberly and Tali. Thank you guys both again for being here. And we're very excited to learn some more about screen time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. So we left off last time highlighting some big picture recommended practices. And now we're going to jump in more deeply on recommended practices for early childhood as it relates to screen time, ages 0 to 5. So Kymberly, can you talk us through the media diet?
Right. So I like to compare media diet to a general food diet. Like we wouldn't eat cheesecake, for every meal or we need to balance our diet. We need to have a healthy balance of different kinds of food. So media consumption with children is very similar to a food consumption. They need to have a well-balanced media diet, not too much junk. Once in a while, it's okay, it's fun, maybe it's a reward, it's special, but most of the time we want to be using quality content. And like we said in the last half, content of quality is more important than the time, worrying about the time on the devices right now. Let's really focus more on what they're watching and how they're engaging with it, and if they're engaging with other people, other maybe older children or an adult.
And we talked about this last time too, but if you visualize that pie chart again and think about all the important activities for your kids to get. So Kymberly had highlighted read, play, sing, write, and
read, talk, play, write, sing. Yeah.
Thank you. So making sure they're getting all of those activities and that screen time isn't replacing those too.
Yeah, and that's right. And reading and talking are very, very important for brain development and learning early literacy skills so that when they get to school, they're ready to read. So they need to be talked to every day and they need to be read to. Playing is always important for children. It's something they just have to do in order to process the world. So, and writing is just important for their fine motor skills. Preschool, if you talk to any preschool director, they will say they're seeing a lot of delays in speech and a lot of delays in motor skills. So, and singing, of course, is very fun and a great way for children to learn the sounds of the languages they're learning. All these things should be done in the language that you know best, the caregiver. So if the parent speaks another language other than English, better than English, or that's just the language they speak. All these things should be done in that native language. Why? Because the children learn more vocabulary. They get a deeper, richer engagement with language. Don't feel like you have to use English. When your children get to school, they will learn English very, very quickly. If you're doing more than one language in a household, excellent. That is so wonderful. And what a gift to give your child. Do not worry about it taking a little more time. Reading and talking, playing, and singing with them, they will get all the skills they need for language growth. And if it's in more than one language, just give them that gift and give them the time. It'll work itself out.
And when we talk about writing, we mean, you know, with crayons or markers and drawing, all of that. It's not
Opportunities.
Yeah, it's not writing quite the same way as
right.
reading.
Thank you, Tali.
Great. So, you know, Kymberly, you did mention that not all screen time is equal, and we really want to think about that quality. And so what we're going to share right now, we shared it at the end of our last session, is where do you find high quality resources? So we're going to look at Common Sense's resources. Everything we're sharing is completely free. Common Sense is a nonprofit, mission-based organization. So I'm going to exit out of the presentation. I'm going to pull up Common Sense. I'm going to commonsensemedia.org. And I'm going under movies and TV. I like doing this because this is where I can find my best of lists. So if I'm not even sure where to start, I do want to highlight, which I didn't highlight last time, is the Common Sense selections for family entertainment. This is kind of a best of list we put together. Most of these are for kids who are older, but this is a great resource if you're in a multi-age household as well. So just wanted to highlight that. Today, I'm going to go down to, I'm going to click on the best TV list because that's going to help me access those best websites. And Kymberly, you had mentioned, you know, everything these days is labeled as nutritionally rich. I think about it as like food, like, yeah, natural flavors. What does that actually mean?
Free or whatever, yeah.
So that's what's great here is that we've done that work and that research for you, and you can filter by age range again. So I'm going to stay in these little kids, the preschoolers. You'll notice that all of our age ranges start at age 2, and that's going back to that AAP recommendation to not really start your screen time life until you're 2. So that's why. And so here you've got lists like the best kids app of the decade. Actually, let's just click on this to give you, oh, I love that, even though I just clicked away from it, but 19 apps and sites for kids who don't like math. So here you can see Learn and Grow. Khan Academy is always fantastic.
My kids used Khan Academy their whole lives.
Yeah.
Basically, their whole school life. We didn't know about it until 1st grade, but now they have a pre-K section. So.
Right. They do have a pre-K section. So just to give you an idea here about what you're looking at, the same as with TV and movies, you're looking at all these same areas. And that's also because there is a lot of consumerism in a lot of kids' apps, especially if it's free. You've got to be on the lookout for that. That's what another
A lot of times they're based around products that they're trying to encourage the child to grow up with, and therefore wanting to buy anything related to that character or that company. So we really want to watch out for that. We also want to be careful that the message within whatever it is they're watching is something that's really created with children in mind. And this goes for children's engagement with music as well. So I know a lot of children just happen to hear the adult music that isn't been being played in their household, but we really want to create a special time that is curated, that is just children's music, that is really targeted for their age group. And this is something that I think a lot of parents don't really think about, and I didn't really think about till recently, but we had a workshop by Uncle Devin. You can look him up. He's an amazing workshop. He does amazing workshops around the country, but he also has his own music channel for children. and it's really great.
Yeah, that's definitely something I do not think about, Kymberly. I don't think about music.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I also wanted to highlight one other issue when we're thinking about apps, and again, especially when things are free, is that we did an event with Center for Commercial Free Childhood, and they highlighted how sometimes there can be really insidious ways of marketing. Like it could be, they gave an example of like a game where the goal was to click on the right cupcake, whatever it was. If you didn't click on the right cupcake, which when you opened it up was product placement, the little cupcake would start crying. Really manipulative. So this is not a regulated field.
No, not at all. It is not.
And that's also something to really think about as well when we're thinking about YouTube. I would encourage you to check out our latest research report looking at YouTube, especially as it relates to young children. But that's something, if you're using YouTube, to really make sure you're always with your young children. Again, we're talking about 0 to 5, to make sure you're right there alongside with them, because it wasn't designed for kids, especially little kids.
That's right. Even YouTube Kids is not really recommended by a lot of experts in this field.
Yeah. So I want to show you another resource that we highlighted briefly before, and I'm going to just show you how I go to it again. It's wideopenschool.org. This was launched by Common Sense in response to school closures. We have over 85 partners like PBS, which, by the way, if you're not sure, you know, if something's okay to watch, PBS is a great place to go. So we have partners like PBS and Noggin and, you know, over 85, so a lot. And really the goal here is to provide families and educators high quality free learning resources to supplement the school day. So the way I use it is I go into student activities as a parent. I go into this, and you know, right now we're approaching the holiday season, so you can look at some of the holiday gratitude activities. Those are really great. I also think, you know, we're not seeing family the same way we normally would, so I really appreciate looking at emotional well-being too. And there's offline activities here. I love this gratitude jar, gives great ideas for activities. There's also one about making a toast at dinner for everyone in the family, you know, sending cards to family members and so forth. And the other area I wanted to highlight is looking at the daily plan. So the daily plan was designed to really outline all the activities you need for a day. It's really great either to give you ideas or to go ahead and I'm taking us back in time a little bit because I was really enjoying some earlier activities. But this is also really helpful to share with any family members who may be watching your kids and you're like, hey, here's your plan, here's what you can do. I have it set to right now preschool. And there's a great field trip activity you can do. There's Daniel Tiger, of course, who's fantastic. And then there's a screen time break with a clear explanation of what to do. That's that screen time free activity. And then some more activities as well. And you can download this as a Google Doc, just make a copy and filter it, download it as a PDF. You can share it or send it. And you can always save activities that you like as well if you don't have a chance to use them for the moment. So I'm going to take us away for a minute from Wide Open School. I'm going to take us back to our presentation. And we talked a little bit about Common Sense and the resources there in Wide Open School. And Kymberly, I'm going to turn the slide over to you as we talk about the importance of modeling.
Right. So when we have young children, we're with them a lot. They're always watching us, right? They always are picking up from a very young age our habits. And you may have seen these videos of children, you know, their parents are on a device and they're batting them or they're crying or they're trying to get their attention. That's because they realize how important these devices are to us. They recognize that right away, and they sometimes feel a competition with that device. So in this comic, they're saying it must be an adult binky. They freak out when they can't find it. So it's like a child losing a pacifier, right? And having a tantrum. So it's they know what we're doing. So we just really want to highlight, pay attention to your own habits. Be sure when you're engaging in the 5 practices of read, play, talk, write, sing with your child, you are turning off your devices and you're really focused on them. Just 10 minutes a day even of just focused attention will do wonders to that emotional bond and them feeling secure in knowing that you really, really care and are doing everything you can to engage with them.
And when you are using a device around your kids, narrating is really powerful because they don't see what we're doing on our phones. So if you say, okay, I'm sending a text right now to my friend Kymberly, we're going to be working together later. Or, oh, you know what, I'm just going to pick up this call real quick because it's grandma and I need to check in on her. So it's both making it clear how we're using it and a reminder that this is a tool. And we're also modeling appropriate behavior. So as they get older, they know, hey, we explain what we're doing or we pause for people. And I think to Kymberly's point too, when we are spending that like quality time with our kids, if we can put the device in another room or put it on do not disturb so we're not even tempted, because it's hard. There's a lot of digital persuasion. They want our eyeballs on it all the time.
So co-view and co-play, like we said in the first half, is one of the key elements to maintaining a healthy screen time environment in your home with young children. They really learn best by co-viewing and talking about what they're engaging in, and also making sure that we teach them how to engage with media, how to think about how we're feeling, what we're watching, and all of the elements that go into our life and living alongside these devices.
And we're not showing you the video, but this is a really helpful link. It's just a couple minutes you can watch on your own, and it kind of summarizes all the great reasons to co-view. And we also want to make clear that co-viewing doesn't necessarily mean, I know the picture shows, sitting on the couch together. It could be, you're cooking dinner and you're making sure that while your little kids are maybe watching Daniel Tiger or watching another show, they're not listening on headphones, so that you can weigh in and just be calling out like, oh, what's going on next? I love sharing this story from my colleague, Rocio. She said growing up, they watched telenovelas always, and it would be while her mom was cooking. And so her mom wasn't right in front of the TV with them, but she would jump in and be like, oh my gosh, what did the character do? And so she was also modeling appropriate responses. She was modeling empathy. She was modeling when she thought something was ridiculous, like, I can't believe that person said that. So sharing her values as well. So keep that in mind. And for me also, the great thing about little kids media is that it doesn't take a lot to know what's going on. So if you just kind of listen in for a minute, you can get an idea and just be able to ask a follow-up question like, who is your favorite character? Or would you be friends with so-and-so? Mm-hmm. And also that's the great thing about Common Sense Media too, is it's like that cheat sheet. You can just look quickly, type in the name of the title, look up Common Sense's review, and learn a little bit about it as well.
So some of the questions you might want to try, we recommend moving away from yes or no questions where you won't get a lot of engagement or conversation. So just like when you're reading a book with a child, you want to ask them questions, let them ask questions, point out different things that are happening to bring it to their attention. So why do you like this show? These are questions you can ask even after the show. Like what Tali was saying, you might not necessarily have even watched the show, but these are just general questions just to get them thinking, and also to show that you care about what they're watching. You want to know about it. It's another way to connect with your child. How does playing this game or show make you feel? Maybe you have an extra sensitive child. There's so many children that are really afraid of a lot of different media content. And we just want to really make sure that they're feeling comfortable. Tell me about the characters. So that gives them time to really go into the plot or the characters, and asking like deeper questions. Would the people in your life act like the characters in this show? That's a great question for slightly older children too. And you can go on and on in that way. Like, as they get older and they start watching things without you, and then they're watching things that their peers are telling them about, you still want to keep asking questions just so you know where they're at. Get them thinking about what are the values I've grown up with in my house, and how does what I'm watching reflect those values, and how are people treating other people. So these are things that go on and on and on through the teenage years. It's really important.
Yeah, my favorite one is, would you be friends with this character? Why or why not?
Yeah. So we also want to encourage you to use technology not just as a passive practice, but also teach your children to engage with technology in creative ways. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Like we said, there's learning about their cultures and games, but we talked about YouTube, like learning new recipes on YouTube. There's Khan Academy, practicing math. There's learning another language on many different apps. I heard recently about a child that was learning on her own to play guitar through YouTube. So a lot of this stuff might engage with YouTube, but we don't want to discourage any use of that website. It's just for young children to be left alone with it is dangerous. So if your child is really into elephants, and maybe you want to really just indulge them in the study of elephants, maybe you get some books from the library and you read, and then you watch videos on YouTube about giant African elephants walking through the landscape. We want to encourage that. They can learn so much, but they need it to be carefully curated, and they need it to be co-viewed.
And I loved your description of the elephants, Kymberly. I know we have up there Wide Open School. I also just wanted to show that we do have under student activities a whole section on field trips, virtual field trips. And this is a great activity to do as a family too. And if you have a big screen, you can hook it up to the big screen, and you can go to the zoo. You can go, there's a whole bunch of different ones. We've got it set to preschool here. And how perfect that you've got the elephants up in the background. But also,
elephants.
Yeah, the fire station is a great one too, having a virtual field trip as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so just think creatively. Also, there's games you can create with your phone, just ways to interact, maybe like using the camera and you're bored, maybe you're waiting somewhere, or you're just bored at home and you're not sure what to do and they want to play on the screen. A really fun game is to take pictures of things. So say, we're going to take a picture of everything that starts with the letter P. And you walk around, oh, paper, pencil, pen. So you can go around the house and do this with every letter of the alphabet. You can even make a photo album or not. It doesn't matter. Just let them take the pictures with your phone, and then they're learning early on that you can engage with that device creatively and not just passively.
And you could do it with colors,
anything. There's all kinds of ways to do that. So we're going to review some of the things that we've learned through all the research we've read about. These are main ideas that come up over and over again that people recommend. So do not leave TVs on in the background. A really large percentage of Americans have their TV on all the time. I think it's like 62%. So basically, it's just an interference for a child's play. So they get distracted, not necessarily just the noise, it's more the screen with the noise. So radio or music does not distract them. So that's fine. It's just having a screen on that they might be playing in front of it and they have something out and then they'll stop and just stare at the screen for a long time, and it interrupts that play, which is so important to them.
I wanted to say, I'm glad you highlighted the difference with music and radio too. I think another thing is, especially with young children, if we do have the radio on and if it's, not music, if it's set to news, they might not understand everything, but we might be having strong reactions to that. So be aware of your own reaction. I know for me, I just have to have the news on for 30 seconds and that heart rate is way up and my kids feel it. So just be conscious of that. It doesn't mean, cold turkey, you never have it on with them, but be aware of it and think about limiting it.
Right. And like we said earlier, make sure children have no screens an hour before bedtime. And we recommend keeping the screens out of the bedroom past that hour. So I know it's impossible if you have an older child, especially a teen, for them not to have their devices in their room at night. But if you can start a lot of these practices when they're young, it will be easy for you as they get older and older. There's going to be differences. Your friends and the other children are going to have different rules. And if you really want to keep a balanced and healthy atmosphere around screen time, it's going to take some strength, some inner parenting strength. It's not easy, but to start these practices while they're young, it will make it a lot easier for you.
And I think on that note, if you can try some of these practices for yourself, even if it's just one night, you say, I'm not going to sleep with the phone next to my bed. I'm going to put it in the other room. And when you do that, being vocal about it with your family, that's modeling. Because going back to that earlier comic that you shared, Kymberly, we know kids are watching what we're doing. Yeah. And we're really trying to model that healthy balance, which is really hard.
And a lot of times we do have to use screens in ways that they just don't get to do. So we just have to say, look, I have a job. I need to be available for my job. I what if grandma needs me? I need the phone next to me, but you are a younger child and you don't. And that's just the way it is. And there's going to be lines you're going to have to draw. And that's where our media planner really comes in helpful, which we'll get to.
Yeah. And I think too, Kymberly, with setting up those screen time times, whether it's a meal time, I know Common Sense was big into device-free dinners. That may or may not work for your family right now. Whether it's around a meal or not around a meal, making sure you have some sacred time where everybody's putting a device away is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. And really setting limits is really the key, and sticking to what you're saying. So really sticking to the agreement that you make, and encouraging other types of play, encouraging that from a young age so that they aren't used to just the screens. If they're always on the screens, they will be bored with other types of play, and that is not ideal for this age group. They really need a variety of play.
And I'm thinking about what you said too about, the difference between adults and kids. And I think we can be transparent and say that to our kids. It's similar to the food analogy, like you need to eat your fruits and vegetables and healthy proteins and grains so you can grow great, big and strong. Similarly, you need to have a lot of time not on a screen so that your brain can develop, and talk to them about that as well.
Yeah.
So we're gonna share now some strategies of how you can talk with your kids and how we can kind of move away from using a phone for a lot of, whether it's an emotional substitute, a quick, activity substitute. So I love this activity. And I think I got it from you, Kymberly, of saying, instead of a phone, what are some other things that we can hand our kids instead? And going back to that food analogy, thinking about it in terms of, we know we're going to be out all day. The kids are going to get hungry. What kind of healthy snacks can I have and pre-plan beforehand so that it doesn't mean I'm in New York, so running into a bodega and buying that, candy bag or bag of chips. So similarly, let's plan ahead of time. What are some things that we can give our kids instead of a phone when we know they're going to have that inevitable meltdown or start to get tired? Could that be a special stuffy? Could it be a few blocks or a little toy that's easy to put in a backpack or put in a bag, or even have something at home where this is our special place where we can get some different toys?
Right, a small book or a couple small books. Maybe they have one book that they really, really are obsessed with. bring that book. You know, just a few things that are small that you can access. Also, I really recommend learning some finger plays that the librarians do them at story times. They're excellent little ways to engage young children that is so fun for them. And you don't have to be loud and singing. Let's say you're on the subway or something. You can still just quietly do little finger play songs. So that's something you can look up on YouTube. There's so many of them.
And
But
that's
you can shut them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up too, Kymberly, because even if you're not using your hands, you know, for some kids, all you have to do is give them that song that they love, and they'll just sing it to themselves for a while, very happily, you know, Twinkle, Twinkle on repeat, or Itsy.
Also, I Spy is a good one for slightly older kids. Yeah, that I know that gets old for us parents, but they really love it. So these are just ways that maybe you're on a long subway ride and eventually you will let them use the phone, but let's just try to engage in a few other ways just so we get that special time in. It's a time where you can really focus on your child, right? And really like engage in some of these activities that you might not have time the rest of the day. So try to use these opportunities. And we know that sometimes you need to give them the phone. That's totally fine. Everybody knows that's part of our lives now. It's part of our lives. And we are definitely not saying that it's entirely forbidden. It's just that we're trying to encourage a balance and really remembering that children need to be read to, talked to, play with, and just have time to play, you know, using writing and other toys and singing.
Mm-hmm. And when you do have to turn to screen time, making sure it's high quality, that it's tapping into those. I know I've mentioned Daniel Tiger so many times, but again, that's something that was designed specifically for young children.
Right, and yeah.
So Kymberly, tell us about the family screen.
Right, you want to open the link?
Yes, let's do it.
So as you can see, this was created as a handout I would give out at workshops. So it was on a really nice thick paper, and it was designed to hang on your fridge or bulletin board, somewhere where everyone can see it and remember the experience. So what we recommend is everybody gathering around who lives in the household. So whether there's a baby, a toddler, a teenager, grandparents, everybody who lives there should be part of the planning and the filling out of the form. So you would enter everybody's names, and then if you scroll down, the second page would be the yellow page. So you would set limits, and you can say there's a weekday screen time limit. So you can put people's names because different ages will have different access to media, and that's just the way it is. That's hard to explain to children, but if it's explained and you give them some of the information that you're learning here today, you will have that as backup. And one parent asked me recently, what if someone else, you know, my mother lives with us, she doesn't always follow these things that I'm telling her about screen time when she's the caregiver. Well, there's plenty of websites like the AAP website. You can go and show it to her. You can show her this handout because it has all the information right there, the basic stuff of the recommendations and also tips. And then everyone would be present. They'd say, okay, I understand. I get 2 hours of screen time a day. What does that look like? You know, maybe it looks like right now because of COVID, maybe your 2-year-old gets to watch 3 shows a day, right? The shows on PBS are about 20 minutes or so. So I use that as a guideline. They are that length for a reason. So that's kind of the right amount of attention span for that age group. And then they would maybe watch a show in the morning, then they'd do some other things, have a nap, maybe they wake up and they get another show, and then maybe when you're making dinner they would get a third show, and that's what it would sort of look like. So we're really asking you to look at it closely, talk about it, sign that paper, hang it up, and then you really have a tool in your toolbox to refer to for yourself, to keep you on track, and to also keep the other people in the household on track.
And I'm glad you also brought up attention level, because again, the younger your kid, the shorter that attention span, and it varies kid by kid. So for some of your kids, you know, a 20-minute show might be way too long, and that's totally fine. You might say, I'm just showing them these quick short videos. It could be Old McDonald or something like that. So they're getting that experience, or they're getting that opportunity where we're mixing the watching, but also the singing too.
Right.
I think that this is a nice place to kind of transition to thinking about transitions, because, you know, I think what always runs through my head is, yeah, all of this is great and good, but it's really hard. The minute we've introduced any type of device, the tantrums come out as soon as we try to take it away. And so what we want to do right now is spend a little bit of time talking about some ways to handle these transitions. And what we're going to talk about too is, regardless of how your child goes with the transition, whether it's smooth or there's a tantrum, that afterwards you do have a reflection period to talk about what went well, maybe what didn't go well, and how they're feeling in their bodies too. Because again, we want to start this at the earliest ages, so as they get older, they're naturally reflecting and building those self-regulation skills. So Kymberly, can you start us with the first one?
Yeah, so we want to allow kids choice, because just like if they are there when you fill out the media plan, they feel like they're part of it. So they're invested in it. They have an investment, and they put themselves, they are part of it. That gives them a sense of power within the family. So just like at the library, this little girl is choosing books. She's choosing books from the children's section, right? They're already curated by the library in the children's section. They're out, they're safe, they're well thought of. You know, this is a process of curation that's happened on down to this child choosing. And also, I like to remember that preschoolers love to choose their own outfits. So maybe, you know, allowing her when you're home to wear whatever she wants, or him. So when we offer children at this age media options, we want to make sure that it's already a list that we've created. So you wouldn't just hand them, you know, a list of apps off a random site and say, choose an app, right? We would curate it. So make sure that you have maybe a folder on your phone that has their name on it, and they know they can go into that folder and choose anything from a list of 15 different apps, and they can choose which app they want to play. And you're like, look, you get a choice. It's just going to help you down the road.
And it's also helpful, again, when we're thinking about, you know, Kymberly, we were talking about hypothetical grandma, you know, saying, here's their list, and we've pre-curated it. And I think, you know, in my house, you know, we might watch Netflix or Amazon or Hulu, any of these. Before I even open it up, I'm going to list out for them maybe 3 or 4 choices. So they're not just looking at this overwhelming amount. And I've already thought about what is that choice. So they still get that choice, but it's a nice tight number.
Right. So this is a parenting strategy that works no matter what age the child is. So it works with tweens. I use it. It works with teenagers, and it works with little ones. It's when then. So instead of saying, if you clean up your toys, then you can have screen time. No, that gives them an out. They can start crying. They can say, I'm not going to do it, right? So instead you say, when then. So when you finish cleaning up our snack, when you pick up your Legos, then you can have your screen time. It doesn't really affect them in the same way. They just don't have any comeback. It's very mellow. It works. It prevents a lot of this power struggle that we all experience as parents. So it's just a little tip.
And I'll say with all of these strategies, try them a few times. If it doesn't work the first time or if something doesn't go well, tweak it. I remember in my early teaching days, I had a tough situation with a first grader, and my mentor said, well, the great news is, Sam's going to have another meltdown tomorrow and you can try again. And it's like, yeah, and it absolutely applies to all these parenting moments too. So we can keep trying.
Yeah.
And I think kind of our last transition is thinking about using a timer and giving a lot of reminders. So saying, hey, in 10 minutes, we're going to be stopping, in 5 minutes, in 2 minutes. You can have a physical timer for them to see. And I think what's also really helpful here is talking to them about what's going to happen next. Hey, reminder, in 10 minutes, we're going to stop and take a bath. In 10 minutes, we're going to stop and read a book. And it's not always going to be something that's really fun and exciting, but when possible, if it's time to do something together, that will be very motivating and incentivizing for them. Another thing that's helpful too, and it depends on your kid, but we practiced a lot in my house, is for them, they love closing the device themselves. So whether that's actually physically shutting the laptop down, turning off the remote, and that gives them that feeling of control too, rather than me coming in and doing it for them.
Yeah.
The last kind of high level or big resource we want to share is Tech Balance. This is a resource, again, free, that Common Sense developed specifically for parents of kids 3 to 8. Although I will say that I've heard that it works great with middle schoolers too. And basically you just text the word kids to the number 21555. We also have it available in Spanish. So you would text the word familia to the same phone number. And then you'll start getting about 2 free text messages a week with really helpful tools and strategies. Sometimes it's stuff specifically for the caregiver, like, hey, caregivers, how are you feeling? Remember to take care of yourselves, and a quick link to some, self-care resources. Other times it might be, are you looking for technology and media that's related to educational purposes or more entertainment purposes? And you can kind of click and get different lists. So it's all relevant. It's really helpful.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that it's kind of like another backup, because as a parent, you're going to be what do I want to say? You as a parent are probably not going to have a lot of other parents going on board with all of these strategies and ways of handling media. So it's going to take a lot of strength. And just know that through Tech Balance, I think you'll feel a sense of community, just knowing that you're not alone, that this is real, that there is research. And we're really emphasizing that we're talking about young children here, 0 to 5. And it really will make a difference in their life if their parent and caregivers can really help them have this balance. So these are just ways to help you remember that, this is real. You're not the only one. Stay strong. Most people out there haven't watched this workshop. They don't know, but we have so many resources for you, and just use them and really know that you're doing a great thing for your children.
Thank you so much.
Tali, Kymberly, thank you both so much for all this information. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great being here. Thank you.
Thank you.